What is the definition of leadership in your perspective? Because I understand that in my side, the way I think, my perspective is uh, leadership is extract the best from our team, from the people that surround us. And you can be leader uh, if those two and more people, right? Person. You can be leader at your house. You can be leader at your company. You can be leader at your church, your community. So, what is the definition of leadership for you?
Yeah, leadership has a very, very broad definition for many people. So thank you explaining your context. To me, leadership is one word. So I keep it really, really simple. And this has come through trial and error of me being an inquiry. We talked about it begins with us first. So to me, leadership equals relationship. That's it.
Amazing.
One word. Leadership equals relationship. And if you can create deep relationships where there's value added on both sides and it's based on a set of values that the two people have aligned and in common and live out of and speak out of, you are going to have leadership at its largest level.
I have a question for you regarding leadership. So I agree 100% with your definition of what leadership is. It's building this strong relationship with people. Why it's so much easier for you to develop these relationships with, let's say, friends or what I mean by that is like why it's easier to do that with people that you don't work together with. Because why I'm asking that? Because when you're in a position where you're leader of a team, you own the business. So basically you're the boss. The ugly word, right? Boss. Why it's more difficult to do that when you have a team that works for you instead of like me and you being friends? I can be a leader. You can see me as a leader depending on our relationship. Why when we're talking about business and you have employees, it's a little more difficult?
It is because human beings we have these built-in biases, and so a bias is this idea that we favor things or we don't favor things, right? And so when I don't really have a deep relationship with you, I don't really have that strong of a bias about the things I like and dislike in life. But when I work for you, it seems to trigger these biases we have, right? And then all of the good, the ugly, and all the stuff that we were taught, that we have come to believe starts to pop up. And that makes it really, really challenging because in our culture, the boss is perceived as X. And depending on whatever your previous experience, you bring that unconsciously to this new relationships. And so just imagine every time you're employing new people, they're bringing, we call it baggage, I call it luggage. They're bringing that from the last 2, 3, 4 dozen relationships. And you don't know that. And most of the time, either do they.
Wow.
Wow.
That answered my question completely.
I think I'm going to pinpoint something that she says that is what I see with our team is because when we come and talk to you as an entrepreneur, as a coach, and other business owner, they kind of understand more us when we come to talk to our team. They look at us as a boss, and it's kind of you have to measure your words. You need to understand them more before we throw a word, impose something. So how how can you help me with that? Like, what can you say? Why I'm trying to not impose.
I think when you're trying to get the best of them, maybe we have a different mindset, we have a different way of thinking, of talking, and sometimes we're perceived differently. Or we mean something, but they understand something different.
Because it comes from the boss, it comes from the person that owns the place. So.
Yeah, it seems like they perceive different than if I'm talking to a friend, hey, you should change your diet, man. This is bad for you. But if you tell your employee, hey, man, you're not supposed to leave your station disorganized and you're supposed to sanitize your tools, it sounds different because you're the boss. It sounds like I'm ordering you, go and do it, even if you don't say it that way. So how can we improve the not only us, right? Every business owner struggle with that.
Struggle with the same thing.
How can we make it better?
That's what I get hired for. That's the $1 million question. So in basketball, one of the most famous coaches around, his name is Coach K. He, until recently, has played his last game, I think a few weeks ago for Duke. He was the head coach for 42, 43 years. And his background is in the military. So they asked him, why do these kids play for you over and over again, and they come back and they become your assistant coaches, and this big network of these Duke players? And it comes back to what I was talking about, having a deep relationship. When people get that you care at a deeper level, they hear you differently. And when I coach business owners and they bring the same scenario, I mean, I'm being respectful, Ralph, and these are some basic ground rules to work here and so that you can prosper, and this is for your benefit. They don't always hear you that way, and when they get defensive or they don't follow through and keep their word or keep agreements with you, as I like to say in my business, it has to do with, at some level, you're at a relationship with them. And then it becomes your challenge to figure out who you need to be for that type of personality, for that type of person. And one of the things that this coach, Coach K, everybody knows Coach K, he does, and also Pete Carroll, he's a head coach for the Seattle Seahawks, he meets with every player they draft. He meets their family. He goes to their neighborhoods. He understands or tries to get a deep understanding of what's your story. Everybody has a story that's different than your story. And oftentimes, until you get to what is your story, you're going to have communication issues because that story has shaped them. And so their defensiveness or whatever they're doing or being that you don't like, or like, wow, you're not listening to me, and how do I need to communicate differently? You have to take it back to better understand where they're coming from, and usually it lies in something and when they were young, or something about their culture and how they were spoken to, and authority, and their likes and their dislikes, and that takes a lot of time and patience. But once you get under that, you can speak 5 different languages, and the child or the adult will nod their head, because we get confused at language, and most people understand nonverbal more than they understand verbal, and the nonverbal is in the heart space. Right. If I just look at you and connect with you and say a few soft words, it actually makes a bigger difference than the rhetoric sometimes you hear about giving instructions, and we overtalk way too much.